Dear students, this channel is for practicing PTA modules every day. If you are struggling with PTA reading module, you can purchase a reading course, which may help you to ace your reading score. Contact us on 6367949840, 9588068207.
People modify cultural ideas in their minds, and sometimes they pass on the modified versions. Inevitably, there are unintentional modifications as well, partly because of straightforward error and partly because inexplicit ideas are hard to convey accurately. There is no way to download them directly from one brain to another like computer programs. Even native speakers of a language will not give identical definitions of every word. So it can be only rarely, if ever, that two people hold precisely the same cultural idea in their minds. That is why, when the founder of a political or philosophical movement or a religion dies, or even before, schisms typically happen. The movement's most devoted followers are often shocked to discover that they disagree about what its doctrines really are. In The Origin of Species, Darwin provided abundant evidence that life on Earth has evolved over time, and he proposed natural selection as the primary mechanism for that change. He observed that individuals differ in their inherited traits and that selection adds on such differences, leading to evolutionary change. Although Darwin realized that variation in heritable traits is a prerequisite for evolution, he did not know precisely how organisms pass heritable traits to their offspring. Just a few years after Darwin published The Origin of Species, Gregor Mendel wrote a groundbreaking paper on inheritance in pea plants. In that paper, Mendel proposed a model of inheritance in which organisms transmit discrete heritable units, now called genes, to their offspring. Although Darwin did not know about genes, Mendel's paper set the stage for understanding the genetic differences on which evolution is based. Paris is very old. There has been a settlement there for at least 6,000 years, and its shape has been determined in part by the river Seine and in part by the edicts of France's rulers. But the great boulevards we admire today are relatively new and were constructed to prevent any more barricades being created by the rebellious population. That work was carried out in the middle 19th century. The earlier Paris had been in part a maze of narrow streets and alleyways. But you can imagine that the work was not only highly expensive but caused great distress among the 500,000 or so residents whose houses were simply razed and whose neighborhoods disappeared. What is done cannot usually be undone, especially when buildings are torn down. Over the last 10,000 years, there seem to have been two separate and conflicting building sentiments throughout the history of towns and cities. One is the desire to start again. For a variety of reasons, an earthquake or a tidal wave may have demolished the settlement, or fire destroyed it, or the new city marks a new political beginning. The other can be likened to the effect of a magnet. Established settlements attract people, who tend to come whether or not there is any planning for their arrival. The clash between these two sentiments is evident in every established city unless its development has been almost completely accidental, or is lost in history. Incidentally, many settlements have been planned from the beginning but, for a variety of reasons, no settlement followed the plan. Ultimately, in a sustainable San Francisco, almost all trips to and within the city will be on public transit, foot or bicycle, as will a good part of trips to the larger Bay region. Walking through streets designed for pedestrians and bicycles will be more pleasant than walking through those designed for the automobile. Street front retail and commercial establishments will prosper from the large volume of foot traffic drawn to an environment enhanced by trees, appropriately designed street furniture, street lights, bicycle racks, benches, and the like, and other people. Rents and property costs will be lowered as land for off-street parking is no longer required or needed. Pidgins are languages that are born after contact between at least two languages. As many pidgins developed during the period of empire and international trade, one of the language parents was frequently a European language, such as French or English, and the other language parent was the language of the people with whom the Europeans were trading or whom they were colonizing. Usually one of the languages provided the majority of vocabulary items and the other provided the grammatical structure. When pidgins become learned as a mother tongue, they become known as creoles. I am not going to discuss pidgins and creoles and contact languages as such in this book in any depth. Most important of all is the fact that for each new ballet pantomime created at the Paris Opera during the July Monarchy, a new score was produced. The reason for this is simple: these ballet pantomimes told stories, elaborate ones, and music was considered an indispensable tool in getting them across to the audience. Therefore, music had to be newly created to fit each story. Music tailor-made for each new ballet pantomime, however, was only one weapon in the opera's explanatory arsenal. Another was the ballet pantomime libretto, a printed booklet of 15 to 40 pages in length, which was sold in the opera's lobby, like the opera libretto, and which laid out the plot in painstaking detail, scene by scene. Critics also took it upon themselves to recount the plots of both ballet pantomimes and operas in their reviews of premieres. So did the publishers of souvenir albums, which also featured pictures of famous performers and of scenes from favorite ballet pantomimes and operas.